this particular bread pudding. So I'm going to show you guys how to make that. I'm also going to show you guys how to make a delicious ginger cognac sauce to go with it too. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, bread pudding is mixed, soaked, baked ingredients that are put together. It dates all the way back to like 18th century England is the first time it was really mentioned in a cookbook, and at that point it was like puff pastry with alternating layers of different toppings and thickened cream. Okay, essentially what bread pudding is it's stale bread, milk, eggs, cream, and some sort of fat like butter or oil. Okay, they can be sweet or they can be savory. The savory ones are more entrees, and so you might have a cheddar thyme bread pudding. Okay, and then you have the sweet, which is something more with dried fruit, sugar, syrup, honey, nuts, and spices. Okay, so there's a ton of variations all around the world. The Philippines have one that they do with banana all the time. Then you have Mexico, which is was it Capirotada, I believe is the name of that one. And then you also have UK version, which is the wet Nelly. And then you have Cuba, which is normally served with guava marmalade. Okay. In the US has a really big version that everybody watches, which is Louisiana bread pudding with rum sauce. That's like the most famous one here, and all around the country you'll see that there all the time. So that is that. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So the reason why I call this refrigerators, for those just tuning in to episode number 4, is because what happens is my wife and I tend to buy a lot of stuff, but we buy for recipes. So we're like, we want to make this, we want to make this, we want to make this. So we buy for those recipes. And then we have leftover ingredients, which in a restaurant, normally we would cross-utilize and make something else out of it. But what we find in the house is we tend to have it, and then we say, oh, we're going to do this with it. And then we never actually end up doing that. So that's why we decided that we were going to start working with what we had in house first, and then buy stuff afterwards, to kind of go along with it. So what we have is a ton of stuff that was left over between the pantry and the fridge here. Okay, so we have our ingredients for the bread pudding, and what I'm going to do is I'm also going to tell you the ingredients, but I'm also going to post it to the blog. Chef notes on the gourmet guide nyc.com, and we're also going to send this over to YouTube after we're done recording here as well. Okay, so the recipe itself is actually fairly simple. I said it would be easy, and I meant easy. Okay, and essentially what it is, we're going to take this leftover brioche bread, okay, and we're going to cut that down into cubes. And then we're going to make essentially a custard, a cold custard. We're going to mix all that together, and then we're just going to put it in the oven. It's that easy, okay? So let's move this out of the way. All right. Set up the cutting board. Alrighty. And let's take some of this brioche first, and we're just going to go ahead and cut this up, okay? Again, like I said, it's very simple. We use this for like French toast all the time, so that's why we have this one. And actually, let me get my bread knife out. Okay. Now I'm using a bread knife, not a serrated knife, because I don't want to crush the bread. I just want to cut it into about 2-inch squares. Okay, 2-inch cubes. Okay. Got the rest of that. So again, this is just stuff that we had left over in the fridge. I made something with cranberries back around Thanksgiving, and I still had whole fresh cranberries. They last for a little while. So I still had those around, so that's why we're gonna go ahead and burn those out, and why we're doing this delicious recipe actually. And then we're just gonna cut this into cubes. Like I said, very easy. I think everybody basically knows how to cut bread into cubes at this point. Now I'm going to cut mine slightly smaller because we're going to do ours in a muffin tin instead of doing it in a big pie or cake dish. Okay, so we're going to cut this slightly smaller. Now, one reason why I chose the brioche is because the brioche tends to soak up moisture very quickly. So if you want to put that milk and stuff in there, it'll soak it up fairly quickly, whereas other breads, you might have to let it soak for like 45 minutes or an hour beforehand. Okay. So again, very self-explanatory. You're just cutting your bread down into cubes. Okay. And let me know if you guys have any questions too. All right. Again, this is fairly simple, and just want to make sure that everybody, if you have any questions, you get your questions answered as well. Okay. All right. See what's going on, guys. Let's see, we have a few more people tuning in. Okay. So that is our bread. That's the first step, is just cutting all that bread. Okay. And now the second step is we're going to mix the cold custard ingredients together. All right. So we're going to need about 3 eggs for that. Okay. Okay. Like I said, very simple, very quick, and I guarantee you probably already have most of these ingredients at home. Okay. We're going to go ahead and grab our whisk. Okay. And we're going to mix about 2 cups of brown sugar. I have coconut sugar in the pantry, so we're using that. And then we're also going to put in some milk, about 3 cups of milk. Alrighty. And then we're just going to take some butter, and we're going to melt the butter down on the stove. And that's not going to take too long. Does anybody have any questions? Are you guys all okay right now? How's everybody doing? What's everybody eating for dinner? Okay. And that's all we needed to do with that. Now we have to do is add our melted butter, and this part is ready to go. We're going to take our cranberries, and I have whole fresh cranberries, but if you have cranberry sauce, you actually can use cranberry sauce with this as well. And that's the beauty of it, because you can use whatever you have left over in your fridge. So if you have a whole berry cranberry sauce, if you just have fresh berries because you made your own cranberry sauce for the holidays, you know, or you have jellied cranberry. All of it actually works exactly the same. Okay, so you can add in those cranberries. We're just gonna let that finish melting. And something else we're going to have to do is we're going to have to supreme these oranges. Now, supremed oranges are very easy, but a lot of people may not know exactly what supremed oranges are. What that is this an orange with all the peel and all the pith cut off. Okay, so very easy. You just want to take the end and cut the top and the bottom off, and you want to go right down to where the flesh of the orange starts. So you see on both sides, I'm down to where the flesh of the orange starts. Okay, and now we're just going to follow the curve of the orange, and we're going to cut the rest of that peel off. Okay? And as we're cutting that peel off, we're also cutting very little, if none, of the flesh as we get all that pith off of the back. Okay? Now I have 2 mandarin oranges here. If you have 1 large orange, you can do that as well. Okay. Okay, so that's 1. Now we're going to do number 2. Okay, guess I need to cut a little bit deeper. Okay, and again, all we're doing is following the contour of the orange to get all of that peel off of the orange. Now this is a little bit of an older orange, which is why it's a little bit drier, but the flavor is still there, I promise. And all we're going to do after we do this is get all that flavor in there from the cold custard. Okay? Alright, we're almost done melting that. Again, let me know if you guys have any questions at all. And now to finish off the supreme, all you have to do, you can now see where all of the segments are of the orange. We're just going to cut them right out of that place where they are in there. Okay? So all you're doing is cutting on either side of where you see the white. And these will come right out, okay? So you have all of your nice orange segments just like that, all right? Okay. That butter is melted now, so we're good to go there. Okay. And again, you just want to cut it as close to that white part as you can, so all you get is just the segment and you do not get any of the white stuff. The white stuff is the pith and it kind of tastes bitter and gross. So that's why you don't want to get all that in there. If you ever get like mandarin orange cups from the store or peeled oranges, this is actually how they do that. Okay? So it's not that difficult. You can do it at home. Okay? And you could do this on a cutting board too. I'm doing it in my hand just because I know how to do it and it's a little quicker for me to do it that way. And as you can see, this is all we have left now of that. So all of those segments are out of that orange. Okay? And you can juice this if you want. Give it to your kids to chew on if you want to. There's a lot of juice in there. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions. And I don't know about you guys, but bread pudding is actually one of my favorite and least favorite desserts. It's one of my favorites because it is very easy to make and you can change the flavor to whatever you want. It is one of my least favorite because most of the time when I go out somewhere and I see it on the menu, it's only the Louisiana version. People don't really get very creative with it in a lot of places anymore. They just serve the Louisiana version with the rum sauce because, you know, everybody wants rum. So this one's a little bit different. And that's really why I love it more than anything else. Okay. Okay, and the same thing, all we have left is just the pith of that one right there. What's up, Tyrone? How you doing, man? Okay. Knife off. And now our butter is melted. We're just gonna pour that right over all this bread with the fruit. Okay, and then we're gonna mix that together. All right, and then we're gonna take our cold custard mixture. Make sure that you break up all of your yolks so that everything is completely broken down. When I say break them down, I mean you should not be able to tell that there is yolk and white separated. It should all look exactly the same. Okay, you just want to take that and you want to pour that right over your breadcrumb mixture. Okay. Bring that over now, and this is all you have to do. You're going to mix everything that's in here. And remember, I said the reason why I chose brioche is because brioche soaks up liquid very quickly. So if you ever make brioche French toast, you never want to leave it in the batter for that long. It should basically be in there for just long enough to touch each side because it's just like a huge sponge. It's going to soak up whatever you put in there very quickly. If you're not using brioche, you're going to have to let this sit a little bit longer before you use it, typically about 40 minutes because other breads don't soak up the custard as quickly. Okay? And so now we're just going to take this and we're going to put these into each one of our muffin tins. And you can also use a spoon if you want to. I'll show you that too. Sometimes using a spoon is a little bit easier for some, especially if they don't want to touch the wet egg, which I don't know why, because it's just egg. But sometimes people don't want to do that either, so there we go. So that's the other way that you could do it, is just take a spoon and you can spoon it into each one of the cups as well. Okay? Now, this is not something that you have to worry about overfilling or underfilling. Just put it right to the line and you should be good to go. If you put a little bit extra, that is fine too. Okay? Because what's going to happen is, just like with any custard, the egg is going to thicken up and that egg is going to then pull everything together and it's almost going to be like a glue for everything that we're doing inside of this with the bread and the spices and the milk and the sugar and the fruit. And it's going to mix all that together. Now, you can also use dried cranberries for this as well. What I recommend if you're going to use dried cranberries is you let them soak overnight in some warm water, okay? And that way you kind of get the moisture back into them. It doesn't mean that the flavor won't be there if you don't do it that way. That's just the way I recommend doing it. You can do completely dried if you want as well. It'll just be slightly different. A lot of people like raisins in theirs. Okay, And this will also rehydrate slightly as it sits in this in the oven, because it's going to be sitting in hot moisture. So it'll kind of do its own thing anyway. So you really don't have to worry about that if you know, are just doing it on the fly, or you haven't really thought about it ahead of time. You know, you can still do it the other way and you'll be perfectly fine. Okay? So as you can see, I'm just taking everything and I'm just putting it into these cups. And the great thing about the muffin cups, which is why I'm doing it this way, is it doesn't take as long to cook. If you were cooking this in a big pan, a big cake pan or a pie pan, you would have to let this sit in the oven for about 45 minutes covered, and then another 15 minutes uncovered to get the right color that you're looking for, that nice golden brown crispiness that you get on the top. With these muffin cups, you don't have to wait nearly as long, okay? Typically, the muffin cups take about 20-25 minutes, okay? And as you can see, all I'm doing is taking whatever custard is left over, and I'm just putting it into any one that seems slightly low, okay? And that's just to, number one, use all of it up, because it's all going to be used up anyway, whatever's in there, but also there's no need to waste it, okay? So that is that. I don't need this bowl anymore. And then we're just going to pop this into a 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes. It should get nice and golden brown by then as well. Okay? And then we're going to go ahead and make our cognac sauce as well. Okay. Again, if anybody has any questions, just let me know. All right, and I'm popping this onto the bottom shelf of the oven. And the reason why I'm putting it on the bottom is so that we can control the cooking of it easier. Okay? If you put it on the top is hotter, it's going to cook a little quicker. And if you don't catch it in time, you might end up burning it. And that's what we don't want. We don't want to burn it. Okay? So I'm going to rinse out this pan, because we're going to use this to make our cognac sauce. It's fine that we have a little bit of butter in there. I just don't want it to be too much. Okay? Now, this sauce is easy to make too, just like the bread pudding was. You see, we put that together in, what, a couple minutes? We got that together? So the cognac sauce is going to be along the same level of difficulty. All right? So we're going to take some ginger. We're going to need about 2 tablespoons of ginger, and I'm just doing a fast cut on this ginger. I am going to cut the skin off. You can use a spoon to cut the skin off. I'm not really too worried about it tonight. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my knife and just cut as close as I can to the flesh to make sure we don't get too much flesh being cut off of this, okay? Now, if you want to use a spoon, it is very easy. I will show you. This is all you're doing. You can use a plastic spoon, you can use a metal spoon, it doesn't really matter. And all you're doing is you're just scraping right across the surface. Okay? That's all you're doing, and all that skin comes right off. This is like paper thin skin, so all you have to do is just be a little bit touchy with it, and it'll all come right off. So you see, we got this nice paper thin skin came right off with just using a little bit of power with the spoon. Okay? So it really doesn't take that much. It doesn't take that long. This is just a little faster for me right now, which is why I'm doing it this way. Okay? Now, this skin you can actually save if you want to juice it, get whatever juice is left out of there, and you can use that for some tea, especially right now with this time of year. You know, it could definitely help. Take some ginger, some lemon, and some honey, and you know, you have yourself a really good remedy for whatever is ailing you right now. We actually used to do this in the kitchen too and call them wake-up shots, and with a little bit of cayenne. And it burned all the way going down, and it burned for about another hour afterwards. So, you know, if you ever want to give yourself a little attention grabber, that's another thing you can do with that too. I know some people boil the skins and the ginger itself, and they make ginger tea that way. So that's something else that you could do with these ginger skins. The bottom line is you don't have to throw this out, because this is stuff that you can use later on. The same thing with these orange peels. You can boil the orange peel in a little bit of water if you want to put some vanilla or something in there, or some spices, and you can actually use that as potpourri, as a liquid potpourri for your house. So that's something else that you can do with some of these peels and scraps that you would normally just throw away. You can still get more use out of them. So just wanted to point that out to you. Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna Make sure I get any debris off of this cutting board. Okay, and now we're just going to mince up the ginger, sorry. Easiest way to mince is cut it into slices first, okay? And then after you cut it into slices, then we'll go ahead and cut it down further. But easiest way is to cut it into slices first so you have nice smaller pieces that you're cutting and not trying to cut this massive stalk of ginger, okay? And I remember I told you guys when we did the peanut butter sauce that you needed to grate your ginger to get all the fiber out. But if you recall, the reason why I said that, and if you don't remember, go ahead and check out Fridge Raiders episode 1, that is the Vietnamese spring rolls. We grated it because we were eating it raw. When you eat it raw, all those fibers get caught in your teeth and it's just not very pleasant, okay? So when you're cooking it, you don't have to worry about it because the cooking process actually breaks down a lot of those fibers. And so that's why you don't feel it like that, as if it were when it's raw, okay? So once you cut in those slices, then all you're doing is just rocking the knife with your hand towards the end of the knife in a whole bunch of different directions, essentially. Okay. Now, if you guys haven't been to Louisiana and had their bread pudding, it's actually pretty awesome, not gonna lie. But just know that you don't have to have everything that they have in order to make a good bread pudding, okay? All right. Okay, and the oven is at 350 degrees if I didn't point that out to you earlier. Let me make sure I set this timer. Okay. And that's all you have to do for the ginger. Okay. And this is about 2 tablespoons of the ginger. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and heat up this pan. And the sauce is essentially like a creme anglaise, so it's an ice cream base is what we're going to be making, and that's going to be our sauce. So we're essentially doing custard with custard, which is actually very customary for bread pudding, especially in Louisiana. The bread pudding is served with ice cream, which is a frozen custard, okay? So we can do custard 3 ways if we want, because we have the custard that's actually holding the bread pudding together. We have the custard from the sauce, the creme anglaise that we're going to be making, the ice cream base. And then we also have some vanilla ice cream that we can put with it too, because I know my wife will love vanilla ice cream because I bought it for her and she told me she loves it. So yeah, that's it. What's going on, Jason? How's everything going, man? Okay, so we're going to need a very important ingredient, and that is the cognac. Okay, I am going to use a little bit of Grand Marnier. Okay, and what we need is just a tad bit of oil. Just a little bit. You can use butter too if you want. I'm just using a little bit of oil because it's just handy right here, and it's not going to change the flavor really. Okay, so we're going to take that, and we already preheated our pot. So we're just going to go ahead and add the ginger straight in, and it should immediately start to sizzle, if you can hear that. You always want to make sure you preheat your pans before you put your oil in. Okay? And all we're going to do is lightly toast this. Okay. Ready? And you just want to lightly toast it so that way the ginger gets a little bit of the oils released and it starts to get a nice flavor on that. Okay. And it doesn't take that long. I have it over a high heat right now. Okay. And the reason why I'm washing this wrist right now is because in order to make this creme anglaise, we're going to have to temper our egg. And in order to temper our egg, we're going to have to whisk it very briskly with these other ingredients in order to make sure that it doesn't curdle before we use its thickening power in our sauce. Okay? So we'll add just a little bit more oil to that. Just a little bit. And again, you can use butter for this as well. There's no rule saying that you have to use olive oil or any other fat that you choose to use. This is just what I'm choosing to use because it's close by. Okay? And as you can see, this ginger is starting to already change color. You have the dull color and you have the brighter color of the ginger. So you can see how it's already starting to change color, starting to toast up a little bit. The bottle, what you see is Grand Marnier. Okay, so we're making a ginger cognac sauce for the bread pudding that's in the oven right now. Okay. Yes, chicken marsala. Chicken marsala is good. I had a chicken biryani yesterday. We tried out a new spot, the biryani house out here in Long Island. It's pretty decent too. Okay. So again, we're just looking to lightly toast this. Okay. And now we're going to add our cognac. Now, we're going to flambe. I'm going to show you how to do this. It's pretty simple, but I don't want you to burn your eyebrows off or burn your house down trying to do this. So the easy way to flambe, number one, anytime that you're going to add alcohol to something, you want to take it off the flame first, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Okay? So we're going to take it off the flame like we have it right now. We're going to add in our cognac, and then we're going to flambe. And the easiest way to flambe is you're just going to take it and you're going to tilt it slightly towards the open flame. If you have an electric stove, you're going to have to use one of those candle lighters probably. That's a safe way to do it too, even on an open flame. But we're going to tilt it slightly towards the flame, and then the vapor from the alcohol is actually what's going to ignite. And we're going to let that flambe all that ginger and get a nice toasty, gingery cognac flavor that's going to come from this, okay? So we've taken it away from the heat. And we're adding about a quarter cup of Grand Marnier. Okay. And again, like I said, we're just going to take it, tilt it towards the flame, and now we're flambéing. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see that flame or not, but that flame is going to go, and we're just going to let it cook all of that alcohol off. That's essentially what the flambéing is doing. Is we're just going to cook off all the alcohol that's in there. All right. And it doesn't take long. It depends on how much alcohol you have, and it depends on the proof of alcohol, but it shouldn't take that long. Typically, a lot of flambeing happens with more of the darker alcohols, like your cognacs, your whiskeys, things like that. If you want it to die off faster, just turn off the heat. But it's a very controlled burn, and what it's going to do, if you, let me see if I can show this to you, is you can see it still lit, but you can also see everything kind of getting nice and toasted inside of there too. Okay? And just like that, flame is out, and we can go back to what we were doing. And it has a very strong caramelization aroma that's coming from there too. So you have the citrus, you have the caramelized flavors that are coming from there, and you have the ginger notes that are coming from there too. Okay? So our flame is back on high heat. I just turned it down to low so I can actually show you the next step. And so what we're going to do, we're going to add 1 1/4 cup of milk. We're going to add our vanilla. I'm using a Vietnamese vanilla. I just like the flavor of that one. Plus, someone gave it to me, so, you know, hey, why not use it, right? Ceylon, C-E-Y-L-O-N. That's like the most amazing cinnamon I've ever had. So if you ever get your hands on that, use it. It's amazing. Trust me, just use it. Okay, so we're going to take our milk. We're going to take some vanilla. We're going to take some cinnamon. And we're going to mix that all together. Again, we're going to turn this back on high. Ready? Okay. And we're going to let this come up to temperature. Okay, so the milk is about 1 1/4 cup. We have about 1 tablespoon of vanilla, another pinch of cinnamon. We're also going to add a little bit of sugar to that. Okay, the sugar we're going to add is about 1/2 cup, and again, I'm using that coconut sugar. Coconut sugar and sugar, if you are ever using that in a recipe, are interchangeable. So if it says 1 cup of 1 cup of sugar, you can also use 1 cup of coconut sugar. They're very interchangeable, and it has a brown sugar flavor, but it's actually one of the lowest sugars on the glycemic index. So it's actually pretty good for you as far as if you're diabetic. It's one of those sugars you don't have to worry about. Between coconut sugar, date sugar, and maple sugar, coconut sugar is, I believe, the lowest out of the 3. So, you know, it's pretty friendly like that. And there's also a pinch of salt that we added to that. So, the last thing that we're going to do here is we're going to take, while this comes up to temperature, and what we're looking for is we're looking for it to steep. So if you've ever seen your milk, when you put it on the stove, before it bubbles over, it has a nice little steaming pattern on it, right? That's what we're looking for out of this. So in the meantime, we're going to crack one egg. Okay. And we're going to whisk that egg until it's nice and bright and golden. Okay. We don't want to over whisk it and turn it into that pale yellow color. You just want to get it nice and golden brown, nice and golden. Okay. So that's all we're looking for out of that. Okay. Are you making the rasta pasta, Jason? Okay. All right, so our milk is getting nice and hot. So we're going to take this, set it aside, and we're going to do what's called tempering our eggs. And again, that is because if I just take that hot milk mixture and pour it into that cold egg, it's going to cook the egg very quickly and it's going to curdle. What we want it to do is we want to create almost like a custardy sauce out of it. In order to do that, you have to slowly bring the egg up to temperature, and then you can put it back on the stove and you keep whisking it until it gets nice and thickened. This is the same way that you would make a creme anglaise. It's the same way that you would make a lemon curd. If you ever have like lemon bars, lemon curd that goes in those lemon bars, it's the same way that you make that too. And other things like that too, like sometimes if you make certain ganaches, which is essentially heavy cream and chocolate, that's another way that you could do that as well, is you need to temper things first in order to make sure that they get the right temperature and they don't break and curdle or split up in the meantime, okay? So, I'm gonna show you a trick if you're by yourself, okay? Take a towel, and you want to spin the towel so that way it gets nice and intertwined, okay? And you can place the bowl right inside of that so it's slightly elevated, okay? Now it works even better if you have a wet towel, but what you can see is I can now whisk this without fear of the bowl going anywhere, all right? And that's going to be essential in this next step. So what we're going to do is we're going to pour just a little bit while we're whisking very vigorously of this milk mixture into the eggs. And all we're doing is we're trying to bring it up to temperature without it actually curdling the eggs. Okay? And you can feel on the bottom where the temperature of it is because this is a metal bowl. That's one reason why I'm using it. You can use ceramic or anything like that. You can use any bowl, but it's just easier to tell when you have like a metal bowl versus having something like a wooden bowl when you're doing something like this, okay, or a plastic bowl as well, okay? So we're just going to keep pouring a little bit at a time while we're whisking this. Bigger towel would of course help, I just don't have one on me right now. So now we have enough of it in there where it should have brought the egg up to the temperature of what was in the pot. And now we can take this and we can whisk this back into the pot. Okay? And now all we have to do, we want to turn this up to maybe medium heat. And we just want to whisk this until it starts to thicken up. Okay? And that's the easiest way to make this sauce where it doesn't break. Okay? We don't want the sauce to split. We want it to get nice and thickened where it, what we're looking for is you should be able to dip a spoon into this and you should be able to draw your finger across a spoon and this sauce should not break. Okay? It should have a clean streak through it and it shouldn't come back together. Okay? So again, this is the same way that you make ice cream based creme anglaise, is you're going to use milk or you're going to use heavy cream, and you are going to add all your spices, your sugars, your things like that into it. You're going to heat it up to steep it, and then you're going to take it and you're going to temper your egg, and then from there you're going to mix that back into the sauce. And as you whisk it, it should start to thicken up. And you want to make sure you keep an eye on it because you don't want the sauce to break. Okay? And I just want to show you what this looks like. We're already starting to get a little bit thicker in here. Okay? So I just want to show you what that looks like. We're not there yet, but we're almost there. The tricky part about this is if you add too much heat too quickly, you will cook the egg before it has a chance to really thicken everything up. So that's why I have it on medium right now. Okay. Anybody have any questions so far? You guys okay? Now, if you don't get the thickness that you're looking for out of that, you can also add a little bit of cornstarch slurry. That's another way that you can do this. Some people prefer to add like a roux. So they would saute the toasted garlic, the ginger, I'm sorry, in a little bit of butter, and then they would add some flour to it in order to make a roux. And then they would add their milk and everything else in order to make their sauce. Now, you notice my sauce is actually a little bit darker than usual. When you see all these rum sauce and things like that, and the reason why is because I use that coconut sugar, which has a darker color to it. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so remember what I said. You should be able to take your finger, draw across it, and it shouldn't come back together. So that is our creme anglaise sauce. That is our ginger cognac sauce. Tastes great to me. And it has like just a slight bite at the end from the ginger too. So that is our ginger cognac sauce. Now, our bread pudding should be coming out of the oven in about 8 minutes. Okay? So, are there any questions that you guys have right now at all? Anything about the bread pudding? Anything about what we're doing tonight? Okay? So, make sure that you follow us on YouTube. It is Gourmet Guide NYC. It is the same thing across all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And make sure you follow us. Make sure you like and subscribe us. And, oh, thank you so much, Tasha. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I thought I saw you on board. But yeah, we have quite a few videos on YouTube right now. Well, not quite a few. We have this is going to be the 4th video on YouTube. We have our Vietnamese spring rolls with the peanut sauce. We have our, the brunch board that we did with Run It With Robin. If you have not checked her out, you should check her out. Run It With Robin. She is great with interviews and media personality stuff, and she just does an amazing job there. So she is actually, we did this project back towards summertime sometime. I think it was maybe August or something like that. And now it just seemed like the perfect time when we had that snowstorm to kind of post it. So she posted it, I sent it over to my page, and now it's on my YouTube channel as well, so you can check that out too. We did have a little bit of an issue with the breakfast pizza video, porting that over to YouTube, so that one is not there yet. But there is a shrimp parmesan video from when we first started all of this back in February, doing all these lives. That is there that you can see as well. So you can catch the breakfast pizza on this page right now, the Facebook page. It is in, just scroll through and you'll see it pretty quickly. And you can also soon get it on YouTube as soon as we fix the porting issue that we had with that. Okay, so we have about 7 minutes left, and you can see as this sauce sits, it gets just slightly thicker, which means it's going to coat it very beautifully. Okay, so if you wanted to, you can take this and you could freeze this in a double bag. So if you want to take this and turn it into an easy made-at-home ice cream, you just take that, put it into a Ziploc bag once it cools down a little bit, and then you take that Ziploc bag and you put it into another bag that's filled with ice, and you put a little bit of salt across that ice, okay? And you take that, pop it into your freezer, and I'd say maybe after about every 45 minutes to an hour, you take that bag out and you just move your hands around it in order to kind of break it up so it doesn't turn into a block, and then you just put it back in there. And after about 3 hours, 3 to 8 hours, depending on how strong your freezer is, you get a nice ice cream out of that too. Okay? So this is just the ice cream base. That's all this is. Okay? So let's check on our bread pudding. So our bread pudding is coming up very nicely. There is some nice color on it, and we're starting to get a little bit of crispiness at the top. Okay? And what we're looking for, we have about 5 minutes left on this time, is we want to be able to insert a knife or a toothpick or something into the middle, and it should come out nice and clean. And that's how we know it's done. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a plate ready to serve this. And we can serve it in a bowl or a plate. I always prefer it to be in a plate. Now, my wife has all these heart plates. I still have no clue where these plates came from, but we're going to use one of these plates. Okay? And we'll get some ice cream. Let's grab that because this is, one of these is going to be for her. She's going to love this. She doesn't know it's going to be for her. I think she ate almost all of her ice cream. So. We found this great ice cream a couple years ago, and then someone reminded me about it while I was at Whole Foods the other day, and it's Adirondack. So this is a great vanilla ice cream. She says the best one she's ever had, so shameless plug. If you ever want to have a great vanilla ice cream and you find this one, trust it. It's actually a pretty good brand. Okay, so we got about 4 minutes left on that. Now, there's a couple ways that you can put together a bread pudding. Typically with this version, I do is called a composed, and what that means is I'm actually purposely layering it, kind of like the old 18th century style, how they used to do that. Okay, and it's easy to do, and the way you do it is you take your bread and you cut your bread down into whatever shape of what you're going to be cooking. Okay, you spread that out, and then just like a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you put a layer on, then you put another layer on, and then you put your bread on. Then another layer on, then another layer on, and then you put your bread on. And when you get to the top, then you take your custard and you just put that all over it until it rises to the top, and then you just press the bread down until it's slightly submerged. Okay? And that's another way that you can put this together if you want to be really artistic. You want to take your orange slices and make a little flower out of them around the edges. You know, that's a great way that you can do that. Okay? So I just wanted to point that out in case that is another way that you guys want to put that together. That is another way that you can do that. Okay, so the ice cream can be done a couple different ways. What you can either grab a scoop, or you can do what's called a quenelle. Okay, the quenelle I like to do because it has a nice look to it, and it's just a little different, a little more decorative. Okay, and the way that you do that is you want to take some of the ice cream. Okay, now this works a little better if you have like warmer spoons, but you don't want it to be too warm because then the ice cream will melt. So what I do is I have one spoon that's cold, then I have another one that I just run under a little bit of warm water, not too much. You just want to get it just warm enough where it'll come off of the spoon. Okay, and all you have to do is just take the spoon, and you're just going to keep scooping it from one spoon to the other. Okay, and what happens is over time as you do this, it ends up forming almost like a football shape. Okay, and you see we're already starting to get that shape as we're going there. Okay, and it's just a nice little decorative way to do your ice cream if you're ever just looking for another way to do that way. Okay, the more fat that's in your ice cream, the easier it is for this to happen. Okay, and this is a French way of doing it. So that is there, and now we're just going to go ahead and get our bread pudding out of the oven. Okay, so we're going to give you a quick peek at this. Okay, and this is where our bread pudding is right now. So you can see it's nice and crispy on top, Okay, a lot of that liquid has started to bubble out. Our cranberries are nice and cooked. Okay, and you can even see some of the orange that's coming through as well. All right. So if you don't have a silicone bread muffin tin like I do, you can also use a regular muffin tin. Again, this is just quicker, and if you have kids, it's an easy way to portion it out for them already. But all you have to do is take the muffin tin, and you're going to just put a little bit of shortening, or you can put some butter in there, whichever one that you want to put on there, in order for them to quickly release. Okay, so we need to check and make sure that this is cooked all the way through. So again, we're just taking our knife, piercing it in the middle, and as you can see, that knife is coming out nice and clean. So this is actually done. So now we can go ahead and plate it up for you. Okay. So because it's silicone, it releases very cleanly, very quickly. Okay, so I'm just gonna get my spoon for a little bit of help. Okay, and typically you want to wait for this to cool just slightly, but for our purpose, we really don't need it to cool. Okay. It's best served hot to me. Ready? And then we're just going to take a little bit of this sauce. Okay, and we're just going to drizzle a little bit of this sauce over top. And then we're just going to hit it with that keynote of ice cream. Okay. Just clean up this last little spurge. Hit the plate. And we have our cranberry orange bread pudding. Okay. So any questions? Again, I said it was very quick to make, but that's everything I got for you today. So I hope you guys have an amazing night, and Merry Christmas, belated Merry Christmas to those of you who I didn't get to beforehand, and also very early Happy New Year. Well, it's one day early, but still, Happy New Year to you guys as well. Be safe, be blessed, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe.